Hey, it's Cooper here, speaking out on much of the unrest that's still going on and the narrative that still hasn't changed from the top down. Now, I'm first going to give my condolences to the Floyd family, because any member loss is a tough deal. But in the same breath, I am going to also say that I do not encourage, condone any negative behavior that puts you in a position to get put in trouble. I also make the statement of, what about personal accountability from all the powers that be? You know, the accountability of why is the outrage, and I understand it, I live it, I deal with it, but the outrage of what has happened and transpired to the information that's behind the scenes of that outrage. Everybody saw on TV and can admit to the action that happened to the young man, Floyd, was 100% atrocious. Whatever crime he committed, he still should have gone home at the end of the day and answered it and atoned for his crime. But it represents how minorities are oftentimes treated in a scenario. I was asked about hope and discouraged. Was I hopeful when I was down on 38th? Yeah, I have hope. That's why I'm making this post, is because I have hope. But then you look at discouraged. I get discouraged when every single time that a minority does something wrong, the national media gives it unbelievable exposure. I get discouraged when a hardworking black person like myself can reach out to the media for coverage of a positive story and it never gets run because it doesn't match the narrative of sensationalism. I get discouraged when the only media coverage that happens is to a sports athlete or somebody who's in entertainment. How is that functionally right? You look at less than 1/8% of the individuals who try to play in a sport are going to make it to the pro. Less than 1/8% of those that make a rap album or a music album are ever going to make enough money from that to even make a living. And less than 1/8% are ever going to make it in entertainment. So why can't I be covered? Accountability. When I was growing up, my father said, you do the crime, you do the time. I was lucky and fortunate enough to have a father in my household. He also would say, you put yourself close to death, you're going to die. And guess what? I can't stop that. So mind your P's and Q's. I get so frustrated and discouraged when I see parents arguing and talking about their individuals that are involved in the police officers, with the police officers, and going to go to the school system and say to the teacher, you can't talk to my teacher like, or my child like that, and not supporting the teacher that's trying to educate their child so that therefore they can have a leg up to get away from where they're at. I don't see any outrage there. But the problem is, when there is outrage there, it's not covered by the media. Only the negative, that the individual that has done a crime or close to a crime or thought of a crime is that exposed. Unequal treatment. Unjust treatment. You try to plead to your child, my son, guess what? Do everything right. I was told the exact same thing, but the narrative hasn't changed. I still don't get the opportunity for doing the right thing when I should. But a person with lesser qualifications, being not a minority, a person with lesser experience being not a minority, will get the opportunities. And don't get it twisted. You have all those individuals that say, oh, they hired the token black guy, but they weren't qualified for the job. On the average, when you do the investigation, they're overqualified for the job that you didn't want in the first place. But how do you call the company out that does you wrong? Because all of a sudden it just turns into he said, she said, oh, you're just disgruntled if you call them out. How do I call out my university who had a professor who pulled me aside and said, I'm never going to let you graduate out of this program because I will never pass you. And you ask him the question of why is because he says you're not qualified. How are you going to tell me I'm not qualified to graduate from a class in day 2? I'm not qualified. And yet me taking the class multiple times, he failed me each time, so therefore I would not graduate from the program. What is that if it's not discrimination? Yes, this happened in the United States and our United States. Yes, this happened at University of Wisconsin, River Falls. I see the media needs to pick up all these stories of all these individuals that have been segregated against, treated inappropriately, and so therefore the general public can understand the outrage. The outrage that when I bring it to somebody's attention peaceably, it never gets heard. You have those that have never worked a day in their life go destroy something, and the media covers that like as if they've done something. The individual that are destroying and making my name bad have no vested interest in the United States, the hometown, the cities that they're doing that in. They're riding the wave of anger. That's it. So if you're negative, you get covered. If you're positive, you don't. That's the narrative. So then you ask a young person, what's the point of being positive? You're never going to get the opportunity anyway. You're never going to get the coverage anyway. And then somebody who's white can always make one statement to discredit your hard efforts or activities. Fact. Kaepernick is an example. The world doesn't want to point that out. They don't want to say it. You have another individual that says, well, I would never disrespect the flag. It has nothing to do with the flag. Nobody said anything about the individual who kneeled during prayer during the national anthem. Not a single athlete made a statement in reference to that individual, and he didn't get ostracized and lose his job. When they asked him about it, I'm praying for the event. When they asked Kaepernick about it, I'm kneeling to point out the injustice that's happening to black men. And guess what happened to him? He got treated unjustly. Not about his talent, not about his ability. It got turned into something else, and that happens to every single dialect that a black person brings to the table. Negative coverage of destruction. Where is the capabilities if a person has a disagreement for a black individual or minority individual to have a place to complain about? You go civil rights, you can't. It goes there. Nobody does anything about it. It has no teeth. If I complain against American Kennel Club because they have no governing bodies that are black, they don't allow black reps to happen. They restrict the black judges. If I bring that to somebody's attention, I get blackballed. Well, guess what? I might as well get blackballed because I'm blackballed anyway. Because I don't fit the narrative. This is what makes it so sad. As a black person, you have a positive black person has multiple fights. You have those that want to politicize. They go Democrat or Republican. Last time I checked, it doesn't matter what color you are. You can have that ideology of either side. So stop trying to part people when it comes to humane support. I watch people just belittle and rip to shreds and call this poor young lady, Candace, out of her name because of what she believes. It's called the right of free speech. I don't care. And I watch that individual call individuals that of the other party out of their name by the right of a free speech. Why? Don't care. Correct human treatment is on both sides, and neither party wants black people in it. The Democratic Party thinks that they can win if they have black people siding for it. The Republican Party thinks that they can win by appeasing the black person to believe that they want them there. So the only way to win as a minority is to educate yourself and say, let's put the best person in office that might accidentally help us. So whatever party you believe in that can do that, vote. Because this ain't political. Me being treated inappropriately is not political. Me being stopped by cops is not political. Me being stopped by cops driving down the street does not have a Republican or Democrat agenda. Me not being hired by the American Kennel Club does not have a public agenda. It has a prejudicial agenda. You don't belong here agenda. So, black individuals, stop attacking our strong black women. Stop criticizing Oprah because Oprah has nothing to say about this individual situation. She's a reporter. You cannot begrudge that individual for having success and having a group of people who supported her to her success. You can't begrudge her. A strong black woman. You should be telling your kids to reach out to her to emulate her. The only thing I disagree with is a school out of country. What about here? What about an immersion school here? You have the skills, you have the talent to take a whole group of ignorance and change that. The flag. How many of you out there have fought for this country? Given your life and time to make sure that the people back home have something that they can have, free speech, free rights, and everything else like that. When I went and fought for the country, I thought I'd come back and be treated equally. It's never happened. I thought with all the education that I did and all the extra jobs that I try to pay attention to, try to make myself more educated and more balanced, and try to know other fields and know other people and just be able to expose myself. I can't get the coverage because I'm not negative. Why? I can't get the media to cover me. Because I'm not going to bash my black people and I'm not going to bash my white friends. And I'm not going to apologize for having redneck friends, blue collar white friends, black trash friends, white trash friends. I'm not going to apologize for that. Because guess what? We're all people and everybody should be treated equally. All lives matter, but most importantly, my own. I want to be treated correctly. I want to be treated fairly. I want job opportunities when I apply. I want to be able to get the job that I'm qualified for when I apply for the job. I want to be able to be pulled over and say, hey, thank you, officer, have a nice day. I don't want to be pulled over just for driving. I don't want to be pulled over just because the officer is going to just check my license and registration. No other probable cause. They're just pulling me over to pull me over. And then the question, and this, no, it's more of a statement. I've had just on an event talk today, and I had an individual say, I'm so sick of this. And I've had individuals say they're close to me, I'm so done with this. I'm not done being black. I can't be done. Now I have to become an advocate for me. I have to become an advocate for my son. The positive black people out here. I have to denounce the individuals that are doing wrong, pulling guns on their own kind. destroying and criticizing the minorities that are out there, destroying their property. I don't agree with that. It's ignorant, stupid, dumb. But my story won't be covered. This information won't be shared. I can't get in front of the governor. I can't get in front of the president. I can't get in front of the mayor because I don't fit the narrative of a positive working individual. They're going to bring in a clergy. They're going to bring in an activist. And they're going to bring in an appointee. All of which have forgotten what they're talking about. My opinion. The narrative has to change. It's we, not me. It's us, not I. The only solution here is together, not apart. All lives matter, but black lives have to be considered and allowed to catch up to have a meaning. They need to be allowed to have positions on local and state and federal boards. Papa John's now brags about having Shaq on the board. Why aren't there more companies that have black people on the board? Because we don't represent the numbers and they don't care. It has nothing to do with the numbers. In my opinion, it has to do with give the person opportunity for what they're qualified for. That's all I'm asking for. Let me have the opportunity for what I'm qualified for. And stop letting me see the individuals that have less qualifications than I personally do have the opportunities and are less qualified for it because they represent the group. How I don't represent the group is just basically the color of my skin when it comes to a lot of job opportunities. But guess what? When I applied for Cargill, Cargill told me I couldn't work for them because I wasn't going to be able to handle working around white people. Guess what? I went to an all-white high school. I went to an all-white college. You think I don't know how to deal with white people? I got out of a college that had never allowed a black person to graduate from the program. Not one. Thanks to a professor named Louis May. He restricted black people from ever graduating from that program. The girl that followed in behind me, I said, switch your major because you'll never get out. You can still do the same job, but you're going to have to switch your major. Fact. University of Wisconsin, River Falls. Cargill. Oh, guess what? We can't hire you because you're not going to be able to represent the people. You're going to call upon people that don't look like you. Synex. We're not going to hire you because you don't represent the communities that we're going to have to send you to, and the social life may not be conducive to you being long-term with the company. American Kennel Club. Yes, your resume is outstanding, but we're not going to outstanding, but you don't represent what we're looking for. And I sent them a letter back that says, let me know what I'm lacking, and I'll work on that for the next opportunity. And they will never respond. That's the difference. I was talking to a young man who was telling me about how he was segregated or restricted, a white man, in reference to his college. This professor didn't like him who was from out of country. He didn't like him. I asked the man, so what did you do when that professor failed you in that class? He goes, well, I went to a different professor. I said, that's the difference. A black person doesn't have the opportunity to change their structure, to go to a different person or go to a different department and have that ability to have the action taken care of for them. I got lucky. I had Jim Hillmaniak who went to fight for me so I could graduate from the university. Fought for me. So that gives me the opportunity to say, unless you get the opportunity, unless somebody opens the door for you, or unless somebody does to help you, you cannot do this alone. And the black individual groups that are out there, we have to do this together. And we have to do this standing side by side with every single white person out there. And we have to accept their flaws. They have to accept ours. We have to communicate. We have to ask for friendship and make relationships and build a relationship together. It's not us, it's we. It's not I or me. It's all of us together. But this won't get shared because it doesn't fit the people's narrative. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to share. Let's all do this together.